let us continue recording. Okay, so subtracting fractions. Subtracting fractions is going to be similar to adding fractions. Fractions. Why do I keep saying fractions? Polynomials. Subtracting polynomials is going to be similar to adding polynomials with one kind of slight snag. I'll try to demonstrate for you what that is. I'm going to show you how to do question one two different ways. Once to show you kind of how to think about what's going on, and then a technique. I'll show you the second time to show you a technique that you can do to clear it up as you're going. I'll show you what I mean. So I've got this polynomial here. I've got x squared plus 2x minus 1, and I want to take away from this whole mathematical object here. This whole x squared, the negative x plus 2. So practically speaking, what's happening here is I want to take away from, I'll say it this way. I want to take away like terms. Any term that is in this one that is like something in this polynomial will give us two objects to subtract. Here's what I mean. So let's start here. I've got an x squared in this first bracket. Notice how I'm not just dropping these brackets. We have to be deliberate about how we approach this. I've got an x squared here. Are there any x squareds over here in this set of brackets? No, there are not. So there is nothing to subtract away from this. So I'm just going to write this down as x squared, and that first guy is done. Now I'm going to move to my next one. I've got a plus 2x here. Are there any x's, just x's, no exponent or exponent of 1 over here? Yes, Sauce and Joe? Yeah, I've got a negative x here. And so let's think about what's going on here. I'm taking away this whole polynomial from this whole polynomial. So I've got 2x minus negative x. When we're subtracting a negative, that's the same as doing what? Adding. So effectively what we're doing is we're doing 2x minus negative 2x, which is the same as 2x plus x. 2x plus x is, yes, I heard someone whisper in the back corner, positive 3x. There you go, Josh. That guy's done, that guy's done. This next piece I've got here is I've got a negative 1. Does negative 1 have any like terms in the second polynomial? Yeah, the positive 2. So now look at what I've got here. I've got negative 1 minus positive 2. So we're at negative 1. We're subtracting positive 2. What is that? Negative 3. Good. Boom, boom. All the pieces in the second one have been subtracted from the first one, and all the pieces in the first one that don't have anything to deal with have just kind of come down here. This is finished. So it's this kind of mental approach that's what's going on here. Now, the mental approach is the more difficult of the approaches just because you're carrying more inside your brain, Faison. And when you do that, it's called a cognitive load. And if you carry too much inside your head, which is what a lot of you try to do, making mistakes is easy to do. So there is a technique here that we're going to use to minimize that, to show more work, to clear up some of that stuff. And here it is. I want you to write out the exact same question over here. We're going to have bracket x squared plus 2x minus 1, close the bracket, minus, open a bracket, negative x plus 2, close the bracket. Write that up. Write this out again. See a lot of you just sitting and staring. Write that out. There's another way to approach the subtraction here. What we did here individually, step by step, is we said, okay, I have this guy here. Is there a matching one over here? No. Okay, move on. I've got this guy here. Is there a matching one over here? Yes, there is. It's that guy. So when I subtracted this in our heads, this is the kind of the discussion I tried to have with you. I was saying, okay, I'm subtracting this, so that double negative means I have to add, and all I did was talk about it. We grouped. There was nothing written down on the page. What I'm going to do in this particular method, and this is the method I want you to use, is I'm going to deal with this minus, or with this subtraction of both of these two objects right away, and then group later. Here's what I mean. This subtraction, I'm going to treat like a -1, because that's effectively what it is here. And I'm going to bring it into each of the terms in our second polynomial, the thing that we're subtracting. And when I do this, and then change the signs accordingly, we can drop the brackets and proceed just like we were with adding. So when I do that, what I'm going to get here is if I've got a negative, if I'm subtracting a negative x, Hassen-Jote said before, that's the same thing as adding x, or a negative times a negative is a positive. It's the same idea. Here, I was subtracting +2. Well, subtracting +2 is the same thing as subtracting 2, or a negative times a positive is a negative. So minus -x plus 2 becomes adding x and subtracting 2. I bring this guy in onto each term and I flip the signs. Then this first piece doesn't change. It's x squared plus 2x minus 1. And now we treat it just like we did the adding stuff. We gather our like terms. Like terms have the same letters with the same exponents. So we're going to go for it. X squared, there are no other x squareds. And so when there's only one of something, we just write it down as is in our solution, cross it off, and move on. I've got a positive 2x and a plus x right there. So these two are going to be like terms. 2x plus x is plus 3x. And then I've got a -1 and a -2. -1 minus 2 is -3. And we're done. The result is the same. Rather than just kind of talking about it abstractly, we've got a method now that we can use. Bring in the subtraction onto each term in the second polynomial, change the signs, move on. Then it becomes a grouping problem like we did before. Hello. Odd. That's okay. Questions about what I've just done? Okay. I'll do a couple more examples, and then you're going to be free to work on the rest of this stuff. This guy here, I've got x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 2x squared minus 2x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that minus sign and change each of these terms accordingly. It's going to get brought into here, and it's going to get brought into here. Some of your writing utensils have fallen and need help getting back up. You guys should be writing down the notes that I'm doing with you as you're doing it. So if I'm subtracting 2x squared, that's the same thing as having negative 2x squared. If I'm subtracting a negative, what am I going to get down here? A positive. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding. In this case, it's 2x. So I've brought my minus sign in. I'm going to drop the brackets on the first one, and now I can group our like terms. So we're going to have x squared plus x plus 1, and now I group. Does x squared have any buddies? Yeah, there's a negative 2x squared right there. You make sure you remember to include the sign out front. X squared minus 2x squared is -1 x squareds. We add or subtract coefficients. Cool, those are done. Now I want to move on to the x's. I've got a plus x there and a plus 2x there. X plus 2x is 3x plus 3x, done and done. And I've got a plus 1 in there. There's no other terms. Plus 1 and we're done. Shall I do one more? I go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to skip the third one. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom. Actually, you know what? No. I want to do the third one. I'll skip the bottom one. So same thing. Just demonstrating this method one more time. What we want to make sure we do is bring this subtraction onto every term inside the second polynomial. I've got that guy there. I got that guy there. That guy there. Draw the arrows so you can keep track of your work. When I bring the negative onto the 3x squared, it's going to become minus 3x squared. When I bring the negative onto the negative 2x, it's going to become, plus 2x. And the negative onto the plus 5 is going to be minus 5. Sweet. Once I've done this, I drop the brackets on the first one, and I group like terms. So I'm going to have a 2x squared plus x plus 5. And now I group. I've got a 2x squared and a negative 3x squared. What's 2x squared minus 3x squared? Negative 1 x squared. And those guys are done. Now over here, I've got a plus x and a plus 2x. Plus 3x. Love it. He's done. He's done. And then I've got a positive 5 there and a negative 5 there. Those are like terms because neither of them have any variables. They're both constant terms. So then plus 5 minus 5 is? Sorry? 0. And you don't have to write plus 0. 0 is gone. So my final answer, negative 1x squared plus 3x. I could write it as negative x squared plus 3x. And that's it. So subtraction, there is that one extra little step, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. Okay, so here's what I want you to do for the remainder of class. And it's not just socialize. Here it is. I want you to flip to this page. I want you to do 1 to 19 odds. There's technically 20 questions, but I only want you to do the odd ones. And the instructions say simplify the polynomial. So the simplifying the polynomial, whatever it says, whether it's adding or subtracting, now go and do that. I want you to flip the page again, and then flip the page again. There's a couple more questions I'm going to get you to do. Find me this page here. I want you to do question 10A. Do I want you to do all the shapes? Sure, do 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to flip the page again. I want you to take a look at question 12. I want you to flip the page again. And I want you to look at questions 10, 12, question number 10 down here. Just B, don't worry about A. So 10B. I would like you to do 12. And I would like you to do 13, A and B. Then you got a half an hour. I believe in you. On your mark, get set, giver.